here. If you've been living on a rock, it's breaking news, but happened like 20 hours ago, it seems like, as we're here in the United States. Ben Manga let go from Schalke. Frank Baumann gave him his marching orders this morning. The official statement from Schalke, if I can get my stuff to work here it is. All right, it says, under Baumann's leadership, Schalke's overriding aim is to be as well equipped as possible to identify talented players early and successfully bring them to the club. As part of these changes, Schalke have parted ways with Ben Manga, who had been serving as a director of squad planning, scouting, and the Knappen-Schmiede. Baumann will take over on these duties on an interim basis. Baumann explained his decision as follows. As I said when I started here, I've used the past few months to get a full picture of our sporting setup. With the transfer window now closed, we analyzed carefully what we worked well and where we could potentially improve. We assess not only the results, but also the processes behind them. The measures we have identified will position Schalke for the future in these areas. Could read more. We could share these links, but what are your instant thoughts, Jack?
Well, the language of the statement is interesting just because it basically says, we're trying to figure out how we can, identify talent better and more quickly. And so to that end, we need to get rid of this person, which is basically saying he's inhibiting us from doing that, to the extent that we would like to be able to. And the statement beyond that, as far as Ben Manga went, was basically just Ben Manga came in at a difficult point during the club's time and made an impact.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what they left it at. So, interesting. Look, I mean, I think I'm not surprised by that necessarily, given kind of the way the season went last year. Obviously, the squad was not good last season after Ben Manga's sort of first summer transfer window in charge. Granted, extremely limited resources. A lot of the people that we brought in were brought in on free transfers, but I think you and I were underwhelmed by the activity for the most part, outside of the signing of like Musa Silla for the most part. And then we got that boost with Karius in the winter, but outside of that, a number of disappointments, really horrific, season last year. And, in the off season this year, not as many, great things happening so far as well. So, curious what your thoughts are, but I don't think many people are going to be super upset by this one.
Yeah. I mean, you could argue that Baumann brought in Karius versus Ben Manga, but
sure.
Yeah, it's 16 transfers brought in by Ben Manga last season. Silla was obviously the one who took the plaudits with the 18 goals or something in the Zweite Liga last season. So obviously we're like, okay, he did great, but look at all the other signings that he's brought in, and for whatever reason or not, most of them have struggled to get a foothold last season on the team, other than maybe Bachmann, and maybe that's about it. This season, we're starting to see Anto Adje, Felipe Sanchez, and some others starting to take foot, but as Baumann alluded to, is like we want to get our talented players up to speed quicker. We shouldn't take a year and a half to get these guys ready to play because we don't have the money to do that. We can't afford that luxury. We're not Chelsea where we can buy 60 million people and then put them on loan and hope they develop at their pace. We can't do that. So I'm not surprised, but I am surprised because, like, why now? Now, I get it. Obviously, the transfer market is done. And so maybe he's waiting to see what Ben could do, but really, it's what Ben did last year. What is he doing now with the Knappen-Schmiede and trying to develop the youth? And I think one of the things I saw in Baumann's interview was, yes, we want to build the youth, but it seemed like Manga was working on building the youth of just youth players in general. And Baumann wants to concentrate on the Knappen-Schmiede, our homegrown products, and build the academy the way we used to do it. And so there's a philosophy difference between Baumann and how Ben Manga had it, and he let him go. It's certainly surprising to me, Jack.
One of the other interesting things I thought about the statement that was released was it also mentioned, using like a mix of approaches, including data-driven approaches and other things. And I know there's been comments in the past about Ben Manga, particularly sort of like focusing on people that he's seen play in person and maybe or has some sort of other connection to. And so perhaps his investment or reliance on maybe the breadth of resources at his disposal wasn't up to what people thought needed to happen to really kind of get the most out of the resources that we have in the transfer market. And that goes once again, talent identification and all kinds of other things. So I thought that was interesting as well. I haven't heard a lot of stories about this. You know what I mean? So I'm not really sure kind of what to make of it in the background. Like, it's not like something that we were seeing a lot of like leaks about, at least in my opinion. People talking
Baumann
about that
effect.
kind of aspect of it, but yeah. So yeah, interesting.
That doesn't surprise me because Baumann, so far, everything that's happened under Baumann, we know nothing about because he keeps trap doors shut. He only tells a select few amount of people what he's thinking. So that again, that doesn't surprise me. But I think what you said was also one of the things I've also heard was that manga is very old school and, like I said, limited resources, and Bauman is very much in the modern era, technology, data driven. I can speak on Milan just doing the same thing with Jerry Cardinale and Redbird. They're very much about data, 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 and you have greater resources at your disposal, especially not saying they use Y Scout, but using scouts and different programs and different that, then they can get a broader reach versus going to places and spending money to travel and try to scout people. And if you're just going to rely on people you've seen, that limits your vision, like you said, and be able to see the whole thing, the whole picture without having to go all these places. Maybe make some calls instead of actually going to see it. Makes a world of a difference. And building networks that way. And I could see if that's something Ben Manga's not comfortable doing, how they would part ways. So yeah, it was interesting. Interesting turn of events that I was not expected to see. And like the joke was, Schalke can't enjoy just one victory one day. Something has to happen, right? And sure enough, you get these. We're celebrating victory Monday, and all of a sudden, something has to happen. So of course, let Ben Manga go. It just Schalke's on par for that, I guess. This seems like the trend for the last several years that it seems to happen when something's good, something bad happens, right? What was it? Keystone Wanderer gets fired, or he made the stupid comments after a great victory last year at the end of the season before he gets fired. So like, it's on par for Schalke, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, I did think the timing of this was also pretty decisive. Though, like I said, it was we got through the summer transfer window. We've kind of done a review of what that looked like and how that went, and now they've made a move. And yeah, we're not even out of September yet. So yeah, it definitely seems like that lines up with what they're saying in that regard. So, I guess props at a minimum for sticking to your guns, and if you're going to do a review and actually take that seriously, then making changes as a result of what you find.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see how that shapes up. No word yet on what the scouts, Ben Manga scouts that he brought in, what's going to happen with them. I know the rumors are Baumann felt that they had way too many scouts for what little they produced. So we'll see how that all shapes up. But let's